Sound and video check.
Yeah, we're getting it, yeah.
Have you listened to the meetings?
Yeah,
Are they clear for you?
depends on the volume. Like,
We're having an issue with our owls. I mean, ACES doesn't work for us, but, the Zoom people, somebody calls in virtually to attend the meeting.
Mhm.
They can't, it's really hard to hear.
yeah. We haven't done.
The YouTube
We're
is
live.
fine.
But,
YouTube is fine, but it's a weird interaction with like.
Good morning, today's February 14th, it is 8:48 AM. I'd like to call to order the Troy Community Land Bank Executive Committee meeting, and we'll start with a roll call. Brian Barker.
Here.
Monica Kuzieski. Here. James Mager, here. Also here, Brad Lewis, Executive Director, and Paul Donnelly, Project Manager.
Suzanne is going to just listen and she says she'll text me with any comments, because she's.
Okay, okay,
She'll call it.
sounds good.
The better Suzanne.
Friday, we have minutes to review.
Tabling.
Okay, we're gonna table the minutes for the January 10th meeting. Discussion items, Brad?
Yeah, we don't have any.
Okay.
I think we're just setting
Just said,
I think we're just making sure that there isn't anything for the board meeting that we're just setting the agenda for the board meeting.
so then we'll go into the regular meeting agenda items of 791. We have anything to talk about there? No?
Well, just what the A&D committee talked about, which is essentially 791 will bring up the process that we're going through, but the individual that applied wants to also not live there. We don't have a contact with Enterprise to really understand our restrictions. We have the contract, but we don't have the contact, meaning we can't call somebody and say, in the contract, it says with Enterprise, we need to run it by them. But yeah, when we call over there, there's nobody to return a call. And the people that were our contacts for the contract don't work there anymore. So our lawyers are working through that, but at the same time, the individual that put the offer in his lawyers seem to want to strike a ton of things from the contract that WOH has generated for us. And a lot of them, the attorney said it seems like it's a non-starter. So it seems like things aren't looking very good for that set.
What kinds of things are they stripping?
Like, just even like the restrictions to the thing, like to the mortgage or it's called a restricted covenant, I think. They don't want that in there. They also want us to give them a better title or deed than we have. Like instead of a quick claim, they want us to be on the hook for like a bigger title. I know there's layers of it, but
You can buy title insurance.
well, right. And so there's a lot of things that are really looking to protect the buyer. And also the buyer wants to live there and is possibly not income qualified. I assume if you have the money in cash, then you might not be income qualified to be also living in the place. So, that's what I assume. I don't know, but they're working that out.
So Leah's gonna communicate that we need his.
No, not Leah, WOH. name
So
is
this is an
Katie.
attorney approval.
Yeah, it's an attorney. Katie is our attorney on this, and she's reaching back out to check the income qualifications, that sort of stuff. But it's, if I was to guess, it's not. But we'll see.
Anything? Any update on the annual meeting, or that is when you said it at March 26th?
Yeah, so I was just trying to work back. I think I emailed everybody that if we have the annual meeting on the 26th, Paul and I can deliver a little presentation, and then also we can approve the Paris report. And then we'll be able to submit it on time. So it's just sort of like a double thing. If we can get, 6 members available, that'd be great.
I think I'm available. I didn't mention that yet.
Mhm.
This is March 26th.
Yeah.
26th.
So, we can also bring that up, like at the board meeting, that was the idea. Bring it up at the board meeting, make sure we
Is people will be there.
Yeah, but really, it's just so that we can be in compliance. I'm working backwards from the parish report. You have to have your financial stuff. You have to audit and then a regular meeting to accept financials. Then you have to have time to input parish, which took me a couple hours. It wasn't too bad. And it'll probably be quicker the next time around, but then you have to meet before the 31st, otherwise you can't put survey. So we gotta have something. And then I've seen we've done an annual meeting, so Paul and I are working on we have a couple right there that were made. Oh, did you clean them up?
Yeah.
They were 2021 and 2016. I thought I could right. Either way, they might be in the office. Just annual reports done by executive directors of the past.
Mhm.
And we're gonna create something like that. And we already talked to city council president Sue Steele to get on the agenda for an April meeting, so that way we can talk.
These were previous reports,
So we can just tell them what we're doing.
2021 and
Yeah, so we're
2016.
just modeling after those, and that would just be that and the certification of the parish report on the 26th.
The next meeting date for,
So just also keep in mind that we, at that annual meeting, that's when we're gonna wanna go through and, restate our policies,
Mhm.
make sure we, if we need to reinforce our executive board, like, you know what I mean, just to
Yeah.
get on the schedule.
Okay, so we'll add that to the agenda.
Yeah, if you look back at previous agendas, you should be able to pull up, because that's
Gotcha.
usually what you do at your annual meeting.
Okay,
So if there's any policy changes, those would be the
Yeah.
times you would take into
see
consideration.
it, WH is
WH
quick enough on their turnaround.
Right. That should be your target. I did email back this morning really quickly, for the audit committee.
So,
We can actually meet the audit committee ahead, like at 9,
Mhm.
convene the audit committee, adjourn the audit committee, and then do the regular board meeting. That would also avoid Bonadio having to present twice.
yeah, so you meet 8:30, audit committee meets, and then plan the regular meeting,
Literally right after.
right, like we did for a couple months,
Yeah.
or in November, I believe it was. And that will at least save people from having to commit twice.
Correct.
Gotcha.
And then
Yeah,
that way the whole board hears it too.
Yeah.
Right? And then you don't have to have
yeah,
Bonadio come twice.
yeah. Okay,
to circle back to your about the policy stuff, what if WH can't do that turnaround, should we push out that annual meeting to have all our updates that we asked them to do?
Just see what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Right?
well, I guess we can
Let
ask
them
them at the
drive
next
that
board meeting,
bus. Right.
you know,
Should
because
somebody will be there next week.
yeah, yep. And so that's sort of what we're talking about today, is just what we're talking about on next Wednesday. So we'll obviously bring that up to them.
I mean, they have experience. They work with Albany and they work with Schenectady,
In
so,
Columbia County.
right, so they're gonna know what the cycles are.
Mhm.
And we gave them last month, that was one of our,
That was what their goals are for us.
and that was top of the list, right?
Yeah.
That was what they were working on
Mhm.
that day,
Mhm.
starting.
Yeah, I mean, they even requested, I think it was last Friday, that I provide them the Word document of our bylaws, conflict of interest, but they had the PDF. I said, okay, I don't have any of the documents, but take, Adobe and transfer the PDF to Doc. If you'd like me to do that, I'll do that. And they said, no, we can do that. I think if you transfer a PDF, you could probably get a word or two that might be astray, so you have to then go through and double check it, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
It happened.
Yeah, I think they, and you explained, they have the bandwidth to be working on that as well as the transactions, right? Because those two women are not fully encompassing everything.
Right, so there's an individual, Dan Hubble, and Katie is another individual. They're both attorneys. Katie Kemp, I think, Catherine Kemp is her name. So Katie and Dan are working on the real estate side for transactions for us. And Nicole, and I think it's Michelle, are serving as our board attorneys for board meetings. And they, of course, have other staff underneath it. So the nice parts about having such a large firm. So, perfect.
Moving on to the audit schedule and committee meeting date for this committee will be the 17th.
Well, Monica just brought that up. She suggested having it on the 19th, right before our board meeting.
So that's the audit, but that's what the audit schedule committee, that's just for audit committee, or is that
Well-
this committee meeting?
Yeah, so I just wanted, at the board meeting, I'd like to talk about the audit schedule
Yeah,
and set the committee meeting date.
okay.
Monica suggests doing the committee meeting right before the board meeting, so I'll bring up that schedule, but just outline that the committee meets, then the board meets, certifies the financial audit, then I go back and generate a parish report, provide it, and then it has to be approved by the board before I click certify. So in order to get that done by the 31st, we have to have this either a special or annual meeting on the 26th.
So you're gonna literally print, you're gonna get the Paris report literally teed up, so the only thing you have to do is upload the audit and certify.
Yeah.
So when you print out that Paris document, because you can print the PDF, right? The submission, that's what you're gonna wanna put together for resolution for the board to approve to submit to Paris.
Mhm.
Okay, and then you're gonna have a resolution to approve the audit. You know what I mean? Like, so there's multiple steps to that.
Yeah,
Okay.
so let me just understand correctly. We're gonna have a resolution to approve the audit. Then are you suggesting that I had the parish report done up to that point as
Yeah.
well? Then there's a resolution to approve the parish report
Approve and submit.
and submit. So then we don't have to have the annual meeting to do that.
No, the annual meeting is more about, I mean, we do it differently, right? Like our authority does all of it. No, I'm sorry, take that back. Our annual meeting is in January. That's when we restate our policies. We
Mhm.
make sure we do our board members. We do a year-end capture, right? A year-end presentation. And then our audit and finance meeting for literally just for the audit is this date in March.
Gotcha.
Mine's the next day.
Yeah.
And that's all we do at that meeting.
Mhm.
So you're just required to do an annual meeting ahead of a certain date. I think it is in the statute. But the annual meeting is more about covering what happened
Yeah,
last year,
yeah.
looking at last year's financials. How did we do as an organization? Let's restate all our policies. Let's do all these actions. And then the audit is something separate.
I was just thinking strategy, but you're saying that we can get it all at the 17th or the 19th meeting to the point where I can submit and certify the parish report that day
On the 26th,
on the 19th. So if I have a resolution to approve the financials on the 19th, and I have a resolution to approve the parish
oh, I'm sorry, the third Wednesday. Yes, I got you. Yes.
on the 19th, all I have to do is say, these financials go into this section, but everything else in parish report, here it is. And then at that point, we don't have to worry about the parish report past the 19th, because I can come back to the office, click submit after we get the resolution done.
Yep.
Okay. Makes it easier.
Yep, if
That
you're
is
all teed up and ready to go,
Mhm.
and literally, because you're gonna wanna, because the board technically is supposed to review the Paris report
Mhm.
prior to you submitting.
Yeah.
That's why you get it completely finished,
Mhm.
up to the point where it says the audit is like the last tab, or it used to be
Yeah.
the last tab. And then once the audit's approved, you upload that, and then it's literally I certify, and you click the button. And so everything else gets completed to that point.
Yeah.
Like, so all the property stuff is up, all the board member stuff is up, all the changes, all of that's
All this,
complete.
yeah.
Your procurement, like, all of that stuff.
The only thing you need is the final numbers, which, to be honest, given, I don't know if I put them in ahead of time or wait, but given they're gonna provide the audit and I have the rough draft numbers, we just haven't accepted them. So even,
So you're fine.
Yeah.
Okay, like, if
we
that,
can put them in
yeah, because
if you had them,
they're gonna have you make journal entries
Yeah.
before you do that.
right?
Right, so they're essentially, you're gonna get a draft format, you're gonna check it for wording, you're gonna check it for any glaring errors, you're gonna check and make sure that the totals tally to what you think it is.
Mhm.
They're gonna tell you what the notes are, the journal entries are,
Yeah,
and then, yes, so then you can literally, all your year-end stuff gets submitted, and then,
one thing, they didn't give me the finals until a week later. Like, even though we approved what they'd given, this go around, which was different,
well,
because
because they have to certify it.
Yeah.
And then they give you the final document.
right, but it took some time, so I didn't have to get that a week later, 2 weeks later.
That's fine,
Yeah.
as long as you submit it by the end of the month.
Right, okay.
As long as
Gotcha.
you submit it
So
by-
I won't have the numbers to put in there, like I thought maybe I would have.
You will.
Okay.
Because they're gonna do a final, because the document they're gonna give us as the board to review is the final document.
Gotcha.
As soon as we approve it, they literally go back, take draft off of it, sign it, even though it takes a little time.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no changes once we vote and approve that.
Right.
There's no changes.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Next we'll discuss, the A&D committee meeting this past Monday.
Yeah.
Just gonna lie, we're just gonna go line by line, 17.
Well, I mean, the point of our meeting is to set the agenda, and so this,
For the board.
these are your, yeah.
This
so
is the stuff.
We don't have to necessarily talk about whether or not we should do something, but rather just what we need to know about talking about at the board meeting. Talk about what we're gonna talk about.
The agenda.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
We're getting a gift.
Yeah, so, I'll just go through 17 Park. We have an offer on the table, and the board also got a contract that we could list with Leah. The offer is substantially lower, more than or less than 50% of the initial list price of 65,000. But there seems to be an idea from A&D that potentially, if we can get the person to come up, he's got a decent story, and we went to code and we went to the treasurer, and he has a great record. I mean, even the code officer say, yeah, that guy's good. Yeah. So he could possibly be a great person to sell it to, but A&D also make sure we're not giving properties away for less than they feel it's worth. So we have to discuss that. So I'll probably draft a resolution to list with Leah, and then I'll draft a resolution to also sell it to this individual, and whatever the board feels they want to do, they can discuss that at the meeting. One thing we need to discuss is the foreclosure process with the city. That's what pursuing these properties. There is no foreclosure list out right now. But the last time they did the list, we weren't notified. And so we didn't have any time between them putting the list out and it just popping up in, just banter between people,
Mhm.
and having an A&D committee and the regular board meeting to make resolutions to pursue certain properties. Not sure what the process was in the past. But if it's up to me to just pick the properties, then there probably needs a resolution of allowing me to just pick the properties. But if A&D needs to say this is our strategy and our trajectory, then we need to know about the list ahead of time. But certainly the two properties on 6th Avenue, we know that they're going to be part of the city's foreclosure process, and having a resolution ahead of time. If it comes up and we don't get sort of cooperation from the city, then at least we can still pursue it. Because that would give us four vacant lots together. We bought these two. So that's why.
It's like a preemptive approval.
Right, that's the idea. Because there's not a foreclosure list. So we have to talk about that. And Sharon and Randy Coburn, the planning commissioner, are gonna meet with me in March to discuss what process works for land bank and them, and it satisfies all requirements of the meeting. Well, yeah, the process was probably set up before where they would just communicate a month before, but it hasn't been that way right now. So, at least this last time.
One thing you could do, and one thing that, we had the benefit of being in City Hall and working for City Hall, but
Yeah.
one of the things that we tried to do, when I left, was actually have a liaison. So there's somebody that you are, like, I'm gonna say consistently, but communicating with on a regular basis, just to say, hey, this is what we're working on, just so the city planning piece of that.
Yeah.
It was usually either the planning commissioner or somebody like that,
Mhm.
is somebody who you kind of, like the strategy of things, right?
Yeah.
Staying in touch with Carolyn at CDBG in case there's opportunities to
Right.
partner with Habitat.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or those,
Yeah.
the CDBG funding.
Which is interesting. Charles Doyle, Chuck, is that his name?
Uh-huh.
Chuck Doyle? He comes down here all the time next
Yeah.
door, so I see him all the time, and he's the one that's like, if you guys could assemble those lots in 6th Ave,
Yep.
we probably could put up one Habitat house there. So we've sort of had that sort of water cooler talk over it.
No, and I think there's a strategy to that. right?
Yep.
So that, I think that was one of the things that worked well, is having that interaction with City Hall, because that way, instead of us just doing a strategy in a vacuum, we're actually working in partnership with the city And then maybe there's some strategy behind some of the land bank stuff as well.
Right. And
Or just-
I think Randy's new to land banks. I met with him for about a 45-minute meeting early on, and he was like, so what is a land bank? What does it do? So he's learning the power of it. And he even reached out this summer to see if we could take some vacant lots off somebody's hands so they could settle an estate. And I asked him, what's the bigger strategy for the city in this? Do you guys want those lots? Are we gonna put a park there? What is the goal for us in Troy for the land bank to acquire those 2 lots? Otherwise, just wait the 3 years and it forecloses if the person doesn't want them, or let it go to private market. But putting property into the land banks, sort of deposit it into the land bank, will cause us to have costs associated with managing it. Insurance, property maintenance. If somebody dumps on the property, it's going to be our fault. And so there has to be a bigger purpose, sort of like the Lots of Hope thing, where somebody's like, get these properties, assemble them, and then eventually return it into a neighborhood park.
Right.
Which worked great. Yeah.
Right, which is a great strategy.
So, I'm gonna meet with him and Sharon, and I have a great relationship with Sharon. And Randy's been fine meeting with them, I have no criticisms, so I think that we can come up with a strategy that helps the city move it forward. Our LBI 2 money was initially written to buy the property on 7th Avenue from the city and then demolish it. So we were approved to buy a property. And this past year, they just used ARPA money to demolish the building. But we were gonna pay for it using the state's money and demolish it using the state's money and then own the land. Now you can buy the land off the foreclosure list. So just not having that partnership kind of,
So that was one of the big strategies really early on, was we had a whole demolition program.
Yeah.
because The city didn't have funding for demolition. And that's one of that's not one of the greatest powers that the land bank has, but it is one of the powers that the land bank can do in partnership with the city.
Mhm.
I don't think I want to recommend like what we see happening over in other communities in our region where they're literally mowing down neighborhoods to
Yeah.
build new housing.
Mhm.
I don't necessarily agree with that strategy, but it is a great partnership that the city can forge
Mhm.
because there's no more ARPA money.
Right, when it runs out, yeah.
Like,
at that-
literally now.
I think that'll happen too. I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Hey, the state of city.
Yeah,
Never the shop.
Mayor Mantello gave you a shout out to the land bank during her state of the city.
And she
which
used the
I
word
thought was
partnership, so.
Yeah, she referred to it as a partnership. So no, with the land bank, so I was happy to hear that.
So, obviously we need to tighten that up. A preemptive approval to pursue those properties is the strategy that at least is a workaround between getting the timeline needed to get us to approve this. 2 properties. 84 Ida is an on the market situation where Sam Chapone reached out to the land bank and said, hey, this is a problem property in the neighborhood. And the land bank has the power to sort of solve the problem in the whole city. And so he wants us to move forward with trying to purchase it.
Is it for sale?
And so the individual's behind on the taxes about $7,500, but is in a payment plan, so he's still probably 3 years away from foreclosure. But the building, when I went inside of it, has sleeping bags and it's not sealed up and it's leaning a little bit. And there's trash in the whole yard. So we went down to code to figure out what's going on. And it seems like the individual started framing, but didn't get any good plans for anything. So they really have no path forward. So I called the individual that owns it. And I told him, if the land bank moves forward, do you have to have this $80,000 to put as price tag? Because we can't make you, we can't give you a ton of money for this property. But, we can take it off your hands and make the problem sort of your problem, which is you own a vacant lot or vacant building that you aren't able to fix and can't afford to fix. So I think the AD committee recommended moving forward if the price can be right, if it can be drastically lower than $80,000. And I think from my perspective, my mind is the context of us selling a building for $40,000, but then paying anything more than that for a worse building would be not a good use of our money. And LBI 2 money can be used to acquire buildings that satisfy whatever the local mission is of our land bank. We have $125,000 in that grant for acquisitions. So it would also be a good exercise and case study of how can we move forward with using the LBI two money to acquire properties that alleviate the problems in the neighborhoods.
Okay.
So, 332 9th Street is a trip house. They're paying about $5,000 a year, vacant building fees. If you remember, they initially wanted us to take it, do stuff with it and give it back to them. And I said to them, pretty much point blank, you know, if we take it on, the land bank board will steer what happens with the building. And they'll decide it will be the board's decision, not Tripp's decision on how we move forward with the building. And so you can either give it to us or you can not give it to us, but you do have to let the land bank be sovereign in its own way to decide what their mission is with this building. So I think that they're paying $5,000 a year to own it as a vacant building fee, and they just want to be done with it. So they're willing to just give it to us.
Wow.
So if it's approved at the board meeting at 2:00 that day, I'm going to meet with Noah down at the building to sort of walk it through. Number 5 was just the preemptive. We do not want vacant land on Lincoln Avenue and Robbins Avenue, and that was to generate the problem of what does the land bank do if a board member or employee wants to buy properties off the foreclosure list. So it's trying to stimulate that question using Rick Morrissey's recommendation, which is to draft a resolution to say that the land bank doesn't want these properties. We developed a flow chart in A&D, and so we'll bring that to the board to look it over and just make sure they don't have any questions. That's essentially all that we have from A&D to go towards the full board.
And we do not have any old business. Discuss here.
I don't think so, man.
No business to kick up. And the only thing left we would have is to set the date for this executive committee meeting for the 14th of March. If there's nothing else, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
332 9th Street is the renovated one?
No, it's a brick building.
No,
next door to it.
3229.
30.
Is it 322?
No,
332.
332.
332.
no, it's the one to the right of it.
Yeah, there's that vacant lot and then
Okay.
it's a brownstone facade.
Yeah, but a nice porch at the top.
I was like,
Yeah, we'll
they're
take.
donating that
We'll take.
all day long.
Yeah. Taking nice buildings doesn't actually, it seems like it's not really a blessing. Though. There's like an issue of just,
Why do they have to give it to the land?
yeah. So did we make a motion?
Motion to adjourn, yes. All in favor? Aye. Motion is adjourned. I looked at it to say.